All right, we got a lot to cover today, and the first thing we want to do, the first thing we saw was St. Louis City SC. How about props for St. Louis City
Oh,
SC?
yes. Congratulations.
3-0. The guys that needed to score scored. Another clean sheet for Berkey. Only team in the league that hasn't allowed a goal yet on the pitch in their kits. So congratulations to City SC.
On the pitch in their kits.
Yeah, pretty good.
It is good.
Yeah.
Rockio, great reaction to that. We're off to a great new era.
Yeah, I mean, the first two games were a little uneven. Good offense, really bad offense. And now you come out and you beat up the defending champs 3-0.
3-0.
The game, 3-0, excuse me. Controlled the game in a lot of ways. Had to get a huge performance from Berkey because they did have some dangerous opportunities. But the offense outplayed them. And like you said, they're the only team that has not allowed a goal this year. So what else do you want?
We do need participation on the YouTube chat. Hockey Dad Don has already checked in, giving us a good morning. Thank you, Hockey Dad Don. We do appreciate it, and we want to hear from you on the YouTube chat as well. A lot going on with the Cardinals. They're interesting. They won 6-5 yesterday. Koperniak hit a home run in the 8th. Prieto hit a home run in the 9th. Cardinals are actually scoring runs, and it's primarily because of people that are going to be at Memphis.
They will be. Are we going to do a Memphis shuttle this year?
We better. There are some issues there in terms of batting average of starting players like Nolan Arenado hitting 160 and Mason Wynn hitting right at 100, 115, I think. There's a lot of guys that are hitting well below the Mendoza line. And the Cardinals, with 14 games left, about 2.5 weeks left in spring training, they need to get their offensive regulars going, don't they?
Yeah, specifically guys that you know will be in the lineup every single game. And that's your guys like Nolan Gorman, because they're making room for him either way, and Nolan Arenado. You need those guys to be able to produce. And it is a little bit concerning. I try not to take everything as seriously during spring training because it is just practice. They're working on things right before the season starts. But Randy, we have like 14 games left at this point. I do want to see those guys start to pick it up. I remember just even last spring training, Paul Goldschmidt, and he's older, so we have to take that into account.
Really
but
old.
Remember, he had a slow start during spring training, which did carry into the season at the beginning.
Right. And that can happen to anybody, old or young.
Yeah.
That's why it's kind of nice to see a guy like Gorman hit a homer and have a double yesterday, because the overall numbers at the end of spring training, nobody is going to remember them. And especially for the first month of spring training, if you get hot and then all of a sudden you have a homer and a double on opening day, nobody cares. But the problem is if you don't perform well during spring training and then you drag that in and you start off 1 for 11 in the regular season, that starts to catch up to you. And it's really hard to dig out of that hole. And they don't have a lot of the StatCast stuff during spring training. But some of these guys aren't even hitting the ball hard.
No. And we also have seen in the past, too, when the Cardinals were spring training champs, and then that spelled disaster for the rest of the season. So it can go either way. It also, when you're talking about the guys who are performing well, are the Memphis guys, you could look at it the other way, too, of course, because they're trying to prove that at some point they want to be called up and they're trying to get the attention. It's the prospects and the younger guys are the ones I feel like always trying the hardest to get the attention of the manager and the Cardinals before they head into the minors.
I think it's great, by the way, because we are reactionary.
Of course.
We look at what happened yesterday in spring training, and the manager is looking at it from a 10,000-foot view, and he says, it doesn't matter. I don't care, because it is all about what is going to happen on opening day. And I think Nolan Gorman is a perfect example here, who worked throughout the offseason with Brant Brown and is now trying to apply that to what's happening in games. And I know there's a lot of people on our chat line, in the chat room, the YouTube chat, that are not. They already think that what Nolan Gorman, what he is what he is going to be. And occasionally, sometimes players actually get better in Major League Baseball. So my hope is that Gorman, who had 27 homers and 805 OPS a couple of years ago in 406 at-bats, that he can revert to that form rather than the form that he displayed last year.
And with Gorman, his first 3 seasons, he homered 60 times in 315 games. So that's what the Cardinals hang on to, is that we talked about this. The game, Randy, you've seen, has evolved so much over the years. You need those power hitters, especially a left-handed power. Yes, a left-handed power bat. You need that in your lineup, and you can't just give up on Gorman just yet. And I understand He hasn't had some of the best like averages, especially. I think he's like a career 222 hitter. And so that doesn't really catch you, when you're looking at that stat specifically, but you also have seen that potential of him being a home run guy. And you need that because this kind of goes into the other portion of this of players who are going to be a part of the big league roster that will have really limited at bats this season. You need that power this season because Alec Burleson looks like he will be on the outside in this whole situation. We've talked about this. It looks like he'll be the guy that will be on the outside looking in and is going to get a lot of limited at bats. With the removal of Paul Goldschmidt this season, Alec Burleson is the only returning player with over 20 plus home runs from last season. He had 21 home runs last season, but he's the guy who's going to be on the outside looking in. So you need Walker to kind of evolve a little bit more into that power hitter that they're hoping in the outfield. You need guys who will be able to produce 20 plus home runs. Who will it be if Alec Burleson is not getting those at bats?
And this is why it was so important to be able to move Nolan Arenado, because then you could, if you'd move Nolan Arenado, then you could have Gorman play third and you could have Burleson be your DH. Now, who do you, and Lynn Worthy wrote a piece about this at stltoday.com, touting the virtues of Alec Burleson in the everyday lineup. But you want to see Gorman, and the power potential for Gorman is greater than it is for Burleson. You're going to play Wynn. You want to play Donovan. Contreras is going to play. Burleson can't catch. So you're looking at Newt Barr, because he's probably not going to displace one of the center fielders, or Walker, who is another guy that has to become a star if you're going to compete. So basically you have to make the choice. Who's going to give up at-bats, Newt Barr or Burleson?
Exactly. And it seems like Newt Barr is going to be your guy in left field. Remember at the beginning of spring training, though, it seemed like they were going to have Newt Barr be your center fielder, but they've already backed off of that because the way that Victor Scott II has pushed that competition in center field, and you have Michael Ciani vying for that spot too. I don't know what exactly that you do. It concerns me, though, that the Cardinals will be doing musical chairs with this, because that's the situation since Arenado is here, which was a part of their plan. And I understand the team's better with Arenado in this lineup. I get that. But at the same time, now you're going to be playing musical chairs with these guys, where if one of them goes on like a little bit of a slump, is Ollie going to be quick to just pull one of those guys and put another one in? And then there's no establishing kind of, that adversity of working through the major league level. And we're just kind of doing this continuation of where the players are not fully developing.
Can't do it. Can't do it. You have to be patient with these guys. And you can't, here's an organization that has been so concerned over the years since the advent of analytics. They've been more concerned with process than production. Well, that's what they still have to do, but they have to do it at the major league level. And that's why some people show up here and you say, why is he here? It's because he's hitting the ball hard in spring training, but they have to think, we're going to be process oriented. We aren't going to worry about production this year. And that's why we're in the position that we're in. And how awful would it be for the Cardinals to send out one of these players to trade the people? Let's use Gorman as an example. If Gorman goes away and you get Matthew Liberatore for him, and he winds up being a 40 home run guy that winds up being the NLCS MVP, then what do the fans think?
Then it's going to be a continuation of that story of when the Cardinals move on from a guy, they find success elsewhere. So then it's a bad look at your organization of what are you doing wrong that you can't get the most out of these guys? We have a question here from Rip It Up Cards. Why don't you take Donovan out of the equation? He will play every day, but can play anywhere. Everyone gets a day off a week.
I think that would be reasonable, but I don't think it provides the Cardinals with their best defense. And I think they want to set themselves up ultimately to be a good defensive team. And Gorman is not Donovan's equal defensively at second base. That's why I would like to see Donovan every day. Your point is very well taken if we're only talking about offense. But the Cardinals need to see innings from their guys defensively too. We know that Donovan can play, but I think you want to have he and Wynn together so that you have that keystone combo for the long term.
Well, it kind of goes to your point earlier where you're talking about the guys that we're seeing produce consistently right now during spring training are the guys who are going to be in Memphis. That does concern me just a little bit, because what are you going with this season? Are we going with the best defensive lineup at times or the best offensive lineup?
I think they need to go with the best. See, and this is another issue about Arenado not being traded. But,
Doesn't feel bad because it's not like we want Arenado to be gone. It's just the situation at hand here.
Right, it is.
It's kind of caused a little bit of a kerfuffle with the roster construction.
I'm always, not always. I shouldn't say that. Well, I think that, in my opinion, Victor Scott is potentially the equal of Michael Ciani. Victor Scott's a really good center fielder. Ciani is hitting 0.45 in spring training. So if Ciani was just an inch better rather than a yard better than Victor Scott, I would go with Victor Scott because of the offense. But I can't play a bad or average defensive player when I have somebody who's above average to play that position, and they're virtual equals offensively.
But the thing that concerns me, and I want you to weigh on this, with Ollie Marmol, with him as a manager, that what I've observed in recent years, it seems like he has a short leash with certain players and not others.
Nolan Gorman?
Yeah, still Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker. He had a shorter leash with Jordan Walker, even though he said he was going to stick with him through adversity. It seems like he has a shorter leash with certain players than others. And I think that it's pretty clear that Michael Ciani is a guy that Ollie Marmol really likes. Yeah. What worries me is that, say that Victor Scott II goes through a little bit of a rough patch offensively.
Victor Scott II goes through a little bit of a rough patch offensively.
How quickly does Ollie pull him to put in Ciani?
Yeah, and I think Ollie has to. It has to be imparted to Ollie Marmol that this is not about trying to win games. This is about seeing what this guy looks like after he's had 500 or 600 at-bats. Don't worry about a guy struggling and then sitting him because you're trying to win games. You only sit a guy if you think he's spiraling to the point where it's really going to affect him if you keep playing him.
Well, you can't give up on a first rounder. And I'm just going to say that with Jordan Walker too. I still think that potential is there, and they just haven't given him the correct runway, ding, 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 runway to be able to succeed. Waterboy asked a question too. I thought we were letting young guys play. Isn't Burley still a young guy?
He is. And it's not like he's going to be Tom Lawless in 1987 and only get 25 at-bats, but it almost might work to his detriment that he showed so much last year. I think the Cardinals kind of know, at least they feel like they know what he's going to be. He led he led AAA in batting average a few years ago. Yeah, I think they kind of have an idea of what he is, but he'll still get his at bats. The problem is going to be, you're going to have to sit a guy. So maybe what you do is you sit one guy a week, or one player each day a week. So you have Newtbar sit a day, you have Scott sit a day, you have Walker sit a day, and then that day Burleson does play.
But also the upside defensively, he really doesn't have that. It's more offensively than defensively. I know that he can play first. I know that we've seen him in the outfield, but at the same time, he doesn't have as much as that flexibility with some of the other players. It's interesting because, like I said, where's that? Hopefully that power shows up this season. You do need that now in this day and age of Major League Baseball. He had 21 homers last season. Now he's going to have way more limited at bats, of course. And then you even look at the hitting statistics from last season. He was top 5 in pretty much every single category, including OPS. He had a 734 OPS, which is second behind Brendan Donovan.
We're going to get back to the Cardinals in a moment, but it's time to talk NCAA tournament. That's right. We're talking NCAA tournament for a St. Louis area team. SIU Edwardsville clinching their first ever spot in the NCAA tournament this weekend as they beat SEMO and won the Ohio Valley Conference. And joining us now is Brian Barone, the head coach at SIUE. Coach, thanks for taking the time and congratulations. How you doing? Can you hear us, Coach?
Can you hear me?
We got you.
There we go. I'm sitting there trying to. I've only had like 4 years of trying to figure out Zooms and stuff, and inevitably I screwed up every time. I keep forgetting Chrome. I got to get on Google Chrome.
Oh, there you go. We're all good, and it's great to see you. And it was great to see the thrill on your face when your team knocked off SEMO the other night. What was that like for you?
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, like I don't even know how to say it more professionally. It was really cool, but we really enjoyed it. The biggest thing was just kind of sitting back. You dream about it, and the biggest joy was seeing the joy of others, from my family members to the team to just the 700 people that showed up for SIUE.
And Coach, when it was time to cut down the net, you already had some scissors ready to go. You talked about dreaming of this moment. You've been dreaming of this moment for a while because you've had some special scissors placed where you could show the guys that you're ready for this big moment eventually to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it was something I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. And it was something when I first got the job, I told one of our managers, "Hey, can you go to Office Max?" And I said, "Get the nicest pair of scissors you can get." I didn't really know what a nice pair of scissors was, right? Like, so he came back with those, and I talked about the frame and basically just put it in there. And I always just envisioned breaking that glass when there was an emergency to need those scissors. And it was kind of symbolic over the years, and didn't always talk about it. They were just there. And as we got better and better, I think people in the locker room started like kind of wondering what they were for. And then these last few years, we knew what they were for. Everyone kind of started figuring it out. And then right before we got on the bus, I went upstairs and we almost forgot them. How about that? Like I almost 6 years, and then I almost forgot them upstairs. And I was the last one to the bus because I ran up there and grabbed them out of the off the wall and just kind of carried it around for a few days. And then they were there ready to be used.
That is so great. Hey, what do you remember about that Creighton team in 1990 winning the championship? You were like 13 years old. Your dad was the coach of that team. And by the way, I loved your dad as a coach. I thought he was so much fun to cover. But what do you remember about him winning at Kiel back in 1990?
I think that was the game where Latrell Wrightsell was unbelievable. I think he had just like lost his father or something a few days prior. And I just remember being a little kid running around, the stands, and knowing that those guys were like my heroes, my big brothers. I just looked up to them so much because he had won a couple championships in that 3-year span. The closeness, that team, when my dad passed away right after I got the job here, I would say 10 to 12 of that actual team was standing up at the reception talking about my mom and dad and talking about what that team meant. And at that moment, it's like that's what it triggered with me, like, oh, that's why I got into coaching. It was that, not all the X's and O's, because that's very minor compared to everything else you do, and not all the other stuff we have to do. But it was being around the potential of a team like that. And they were there with your highest of highs and lowest of lows. And that team is stuck together and stuck in my mind for years and years. And it was a special, special team.
What is the biggest lesson that you took away from your father with coaching?
I think probably the biggest lesson, I mean, the obvious thing would be like the hard work and the follow-up and the follow-through. Probably the biggest thing, and people don't totally understand this, and every family's a little bit different, but I would say my mom and dad were co-head coaches. My dad and mom did such a great job of trying to create a culture that was family based. Some days my dad probably made it a little bit more transactional. Hey, if he's making shots, I'm gonna give him a little bit more of attention. But my mom was the first one to go hug the player that probably didn't play after the game. So between the two of them, you always have to stay as best as you can, genuine and true to, like, hey, when you walk off that court, you have to have the ability to connect with these guys. And you don't always do it great. And sometimes it takes time to build that relationship and trust. And fortunately, we've done a pretty good job of that here. I think that's why we have good retention, and that's why we've had some success.
One of the guys that you've been able to retain, and he's been great for you, and maybe part of it is because he's from the area, is Rayshawn Taylor. But first of all, what a tournament he had, but what has he meant to your program overall? He showed up saying, hey, I'm a good player. A lot of places wanted me, but I'm going to believe in the concept of team, believe in myself. He gave me belief. He gave me credibility. When I was, I was a first-year head coach and, going in the second year, but I signed him in my first year. So he gave a certain amount of belief that, hey, this is a good place. And it can be done here if you believe in each other and are willing to surround yourself with good teammates. And over the years, I think he saw the growth. Every year we got a little bit better. We got a little something more. It might have been a little bit more paint in the locker room, or
the court was we had the different logo and everything. Things got better and better, and our wins kept growing a little bit every year. So from that perspective, it gave us credibility and poured belief into this community.
What was that like, just building this program from the beginning? Because you guys had some hard times at the beginning of the season when you came over there, but you were able to really build this foundation into what you're able to accomplish now this season.
You think about all the years and the people that you cross paths with, and the positives and negatives that I personally did. You make mistakes as a head coach all the time, and you did some things that you do right. And when you really look back on it, I'm very proud of all my teams here that were willing to do enough to put us in position to now have the notoriety or the success that we had this year. But if a certain group of guys doesn't buy in year one to a certain type of culture, a certain type of effort being demanded, I don't know if that grows. So this is something I'm proud of, because a lot of former players are hitting me too, and they were part of this. They were part of this foundation, and we built it. Now we built it from from the ground up, and now here we are.
And Brian, it's not just you and these 4 or 5 years. I actually, when SIUE transitioned to D1, I was doing the games on TV, and man, there were some rugged years, and the organization, the program had 13 consecutive losing seasons. So you come in and you give them their first winning season, then you have another winning season, and now you're in the tournament. You mentioned the 700 people that made their way to Evansville. What's it been like for you? Because I know what the passion that was there when this transition to Division I. What's it been like to give those fans a trip to the NCAA tournament?
I mean, right. That's why we're here. We're here to pay things forward. People accepted me, kind of unknown, getting the job. And, they just accepted me as a person, as a dad, as a husband in the community. And then the first people that were here those first few years were the dads that and their kids that were at the volleyball game or the basketball game that I was at St. Boniface. And they were like, "Oh, come and check your game." And then they started bringing some people. And then they started bringing some people. So you could literally see it grow. Like you said, there was probably some sparse crowds back then. But there was always an excitement. This is a sports crazed town, right? I mean, they know how to be champions. The Cardinals, obviously the Blues, and you had the NFL. I mean, you have sports crazed people here, so that they know how to be fans. And I thought it was just our job to, be part of it. It was here. We just had to give them something to be fans about.
Hey, Brian, you mentioned the effect that your dad had on your coaching career. You've been with some really good coaches. Tom Crean, one of those at Indiana. Who are some of the guys, and I want you to include him in this, but who are some of the other guys that have influenced your career?
So I had my dad, Mike Dean, Tom Crean were my 3 head coaches. My high school coach, Mike Terrell, was an old school coach in a time where, it's tough to be a high school coach. I couldn't imagine being a high school coach, especially nowadays. Huge influences on me. But then I had, Tim Buckley was an assistant coach at Marquette, ended up going to Ball State, and then we worked together at Indiana as well. My first staff was DJ Stevens at Marquette. I'm sorry. Tim Buckley, Western Michigan head coach, DJ Stevens, Tim Buckley, head coach. So, big time coach. Darren Horn, Northern Kentucky. Porter Moser played for my dad, coached me at Texas A&M, and I worked for him at Illinois State. My first staff at Illinois State was Chris Jans. He's the head coach of Mississippi State. Mm-hmm. Porter, head coach at Oklahoma right now. Danielle Robinson is now the head coach at Cleveland State. Steve Forbes, who's the head coach at Wake Forest. So on accident, I've been surrounded by people that have a clue to, and even if I wasn't paying attention, I enough knowledge fell towards me that I tried to not screw it up too much. So I've been really, really lucky.
And then Tom Crean winds up interviewing you the other night.
How about that? I mean, you kidding me? Like, there was a moment about 2 minutes left in the game or so, and he was right across from me, and I'm still the player when he walks in the room. Like, I'm still like just making sure, did I do everything? Like, right, are my shoes tied? Like, I'm still his player. And I looked across and he was doing his job. He was calling the game. And I was able to actually think, man, Coach Crean is calling my game and we're about to go to the NCAA tournament. Like you can't really script it, much better because, he just happened to get that game on West, like it was crazy. It was really crazy.
And how are you guys preparing for the NCAA tournament? Was there a little bit of celebration? Of course, when you're cutting down the net, you're celebrating. I saw that Taylor was up there on the ladder cutting it down with you. Just a huge full circle moment, but a little bit of celebration before getting ready for the big dance.
Yeah, so we got back, the game was so late and the game before was really late at night. So we took yesterday off, traveling back. We're going to have a team meeting today just to kind of lay out the rest of the week. The biggest thing about that we have figured out as a team is that as long as we focus on ourselves and continue to get better, then, we can prep for a team in a short amount of time. As a coach, sometimes you can overdo it in scouting. So this week we'll get back. We'll take a few days off because it was a long week last week. And then we have a group of guys that want to go out there and compete. They like playing. So we'll do all the fun bracketology stuff, right? We'll do the what ifs. Why not, right? We get the chance to do it this year. So let's have some fun with it. But within those few hours every day of practicing and lifting, we'll lock in and get better. There's no doubt about that.
Hey, Brian, we see it so much, and March Madness is more mad than it's ever been. Will you get some clips of like 16s over 1s to show your team this week or before they play?
Yeah, I think what we'll do is, these guys know it, right? They know this, they see the, they're already talking about like, who's going to be the team that is the team that surprises people.
Mm-hmm.
So and it always happens and it's not like it's never happened. So, we'll do some creative things. I will say about this team though, we view ourselves as a team without being cocky, without being arrogant, that can go out there and compete against anyone that's in front of us. We had a tough schedule early. We went to Indiana and then 2 days later, Illinois. Go into Indiana State and beat a Missouri Valley team. We've tested ourselves over the years against quality opponents, and we're a good team. And so we'll have some fun with it, but we're going to want to go out there and compete because these guys like winning, and it's fun to coach guys that like winning.
And I'm sure there's nothing like you getting your group together on Sunday for Selection Sunday. That'll be just so cool to find out where you're going and have you guys go crazy when they see SIU Edwardsville up on the screen on national TV.
It's always, you always sit there when you're watching it, you're like, well, these guys know they're getting called at some point, and then everyone cheers. But it's like that one moment where you're like, I can't wait to be part of it. And, hopefully I think we're going to do something here at our arena. I want the community to be part of it. I say it after every game, just how awesome it is that our community has grown and supported us. And, St. Boniface, where my kids go to school, it's SIUE day today. So my girls were fired up. They were wearing all their SIUE gear going to school. And I'm going to try sneaking a couple guys over there today to surprise them. But like, I want everyone to have that joy because, someone told me that, try to enjoy what we've accomplished. And as a coach, you're like sick, right? I got to do more. I got to do the next thing. But if you're not really appreciating the job you're doing and enjoying it, you're probably going to get burned out and like why we're doing it. So I took a time to sit back and look at the guys smiling, my family crying and smiling, and the fans. So we get to do that again on Sunday. So come on over. It'll be fun.
It'll be great. What a great approach. I love it. And we're so excited for SIUE and so proud of what you guys have accomplished, and can't wait for Sunday and then for you guys to play in the NCAA tournament. And we're really proud of you for nailing the Zoom thing today too.
Yes.
You know what? I'm just sitting here thinking like I was on early too. I'm sitting there looking, I was Googling something on my phone trying to figure out like, why is the sound not working? And I have too many screens happening. So, I used to be a video coordinator too. I got to be better. I got to stick to my foundation.
Absolutely. Brian, congratulations. Thanks so much for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me. It means the world. Thank you so much.
You got it. And we'll talk after that first win too.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, Brian. See you later. That is the head coach at SIUE, Brian Barone. And Brooke, I said, I just looking at it, I had not remembered how rugged some of those years were.
They
But
were bad.
5-23, 8-21, 10-17, 9-18, 11-20.
Mhm.
I mean, they weren't just losing seasons, and it's going to happen when you go from Division II to Division I.
Yes.
And it was a rough go, and it took until Brian Barone got there for them to have a winning season, and here they are now in the NCAA tournament.
And you need a player, especially in this day and age. I don't know if you guys saw, there was an interview recently with Dan Hurley on 60 Minutes where he was talking about how 50% of his roster he knows will enter the transfer portal. Especially in this day and age, you need one of those just key program guys who will buy into the culture, buy into what you're doing to help you build up that foundation. And Rayshawn Taylor is that guy.
From Collinsville, all-time leading scorer at Collinsville. So he's close to home. He's close to his family, and obviously has a loyalty to that coach and the program.
Yeah. And the scissors story, how cool is
That's
that?
great.
That he was basically just manifesting it. That's so funny that, they just all the years they had that up there that he almost forgot about the scissors, and then he was finally able to use those. That was just such a cool moment.
That's
for
great.
them.
So thanks to Brian for joining us. And by the way, I want to make one other quick point here. A longtime friend who was actually doing the games when I was doing them. This is 15 years ago. But Joe Pott is one of the nicest people in the broadcasting community in St. Louis.
Joe is so nice.
And he has been a longtime voice at SIUE and their sports information director. So we're thrilled that Joe is getting to go with the Cougars to the NCAA tournament.
That's so cool.
I've recently got to start working with Joe as well, and he was so excellent getting us Brian. So thank you to him, thank you to Brian. That was an incredible interview. And man, while I know 60 Minutes just talked to Bobby Hurley last night, and so like
Bobby or Dan?
Danny, sorry, Danny.
I was
Hurley.
like, wait a minute.
Sorry, not Bobby Hurley, sorry, Danny Hurley. My apologies. I keep getting them confused. But
Dan wins, Bobby doesn't.
So they're talking to Danny Hurley. Not until recently. They were talking to Danny Hurley, and while he has the one side of coaches' sons, over the last year, I've become such a huge fan of coaches' sons. John Hackworth is a coach's son, and hear the way he talked about like his dream to want to be a head coach, and like everything he learned about his dad from being a head coach and those kind of things, and watching him grow up and being like, that's what I want to do. And then you hear Brian Barone talk about his dad Tony like that. I mean, not so, again, very different sides of the coin than the Hurley side of things, but man, there's just something about guys who grew up watching coaches and that second generation coach. These guys are special.
And also the mom. And
That
the
too,
mom.
of course. Oh, they always shout out the moms
I
too.
love that he said that, because I mean, you guys have all seen, especially when you're around the team, behind every great man, there is a woman right there supporting him every single step of the way. And usually she's kind of the person in the shadows, but it sounds like his mom was a huge part of just being an everyday part of this team or his dad's team and helping them out.
Yeah. Like Bill Belichick, it's great that he has such an accomplished woman behind him as he takes on the North Carolina game.
I saw the videos of her, and she was shaking hands with the players. Randy, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, if you are just living under a rock, Bill Belichick. By the way, we're just jumping subjects, but Bill Belichick's girlfriend. There's a 40-something year age difference.
He's 72, she's 24.
She's 24 years old, and I saw this video of him greeting some of his players at an event recently at UNC, and she was shaking hands too. And I'm like, these players have to like be like, she's my age.
Yeah.
She is my age, basically.
Yeah, essentially, right.
Yeah, especially with red shirts and everything now, and then the COVID, year too. Some of these players could be close to her age, but that's nuts.
Yeah. When
she's right there, though. She's very supportive.
She is. When Bill Belichick was coaching the Patriots against the Rams in Super Bowl 36, if you remember that, she wasn't born yet.
Oh my gosh. It looks so weird. I'm sorry. Like, love is love.
It is. Yeah, it's great.
I mean, apparently she's dated older guys too. So this is her thing.
So
this is her thing.
I think he was 48 when she was born.
Huh. So she's done this before.
Yes. Like her last boyfriend came forward to defend her because, of course, she was getting a lot of ridicule in the media, and he was 60 years old.
There you go.
Listen, I'm not here to yuck your yums. I'm not here to kink shame or anything along those lines. But let's call a spade a spade. I believe she's infatuated with this weird idea of hers, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
We all need help with our homework. At times, that's how they met. He helped her with her homework on a flight.
It's such a dirty phrase, and I know it's not, but at the same time, when you say it like
we're
that,
on the internet, so it's okay.
Such a weird phrase, and I can't help but not hear it. It hit my ear so wrong. he helped her with his home. I don't like that. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
like that.
Well,
It's weird.
It
It's
is.
so
Oh.
weird.
Hey,
that
let's talk
she's
about the
so
Cardinals
supportive.
offense because man, that's bad.
by the way, one other note, we talked about Coach Barone's mentors. Tom Crean is married to Jim and John Harbaugh's sister.
Oh, that's
So,
so crazy.
Yeah,
Really?
so the Harbaughs are in-laws, brother-in-laws with Tom Crean.
That's got to be an
What?
intense family picnic.
Oh yeah,
That's
no
got to
doubt.
be an intense family
Yeah.
picnic. Like that's like, I mean, I don't want to see that family go head to head with like the Garcia Parra Ham clan and
Oh,
see
yeah.
who comes out on top.
Yeah.
I think it would be bloody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I did have one more Cardinal note that I wanted to bring you because people on social media coming after me this week and saying Nolan Gorman is no Kyle Schwarber, and I'm not saying that he is Kyle Schwarber.
People are all over you on social media about
Yeah,
that?
but here's the point that I'm trying to make here. Okay, the second season for Nolan Gorman in the major leagues, he had 27 home runs. He had a 5.8% home run rate, a 31.9% strikeout rate, and an 11.4% walk rate. Not great. The second full season in the majors for Kyle Schwarber, he had a 6.2% home run rate versus 5.8 for Gorman, a 30.9% K rate, which was 1% better than Gorman, and a 12.1% walk rate, which was 0.7 of a point better than Nolan Gorman. They were very, very close in their second years. Now, Gorman fell off in his third year. Schwarber fell off a little bit later so that he was non-tendered ultimately by the Cubs. But I just look at the skill sets, the talent, and they're very, very similar in those two players' second years. By the way, Schwarber was a college player and Nolan Gorman was a high school player. So Nolan Gorman actually had a younger second full year in the majors than Kyle Schwarber did.
And you would hope too that this season, with the way that they have things lined up, even with Arenado here, it seems like the plan is to make sure Nolan Gorman gets a lot of playing time because he's never played 122 games in a season or been given 500 plate appearances.
Right.
But they should be doing that this season. That could be a good thing or a bad thing. I would hope that by this point, this could be a good thing where he could have a breakout season.
Yeah, you would hope so. By the way, just to give you a little bit, Schwarber would have been a year older when he had when they had essentially the identical seasons. Gorman was 23 in his second full season. Schwarber, because he was injured in 2016, came back in 2017, and he was 24 when he had that season. So I'm not saying that Gorman is going to be Kyle Schwarber. What I'm saying is they shouldn't give up on him because of what he has shown that he's capable of.
Yeah, you're not out there saying that he's the best Cardinals prospect since Albert Pujols. I mean, I don't know who would say that. I don't know who would say that. Rip It Up Cards says, have you seen the offense last year and this spring training? We need offense, not defense.
Again, I am not one to overreact to what I see in March. Jim Edmonds was not a good March player. You know, Jim Edmonds, we would have benched him every year if we rated him on spring
He just
training.
needed to warm up a little bit.
He wasn't much of a spring training guy. Some players, and granted, these are young players, and you'd like to see them produce more, but what you want to see is once we get to game one, once we get to the 27th, then you want to look at the players' production. I'm not worried about it right now. Based on last year, my expectations should not be high. I hope that they're better, but I don't expect that they're going to be better. Maelstrom Fiber Arts says, since they've already stated that winning is not a priority, I'm guessing their offensive production is not an issue for them. They want to see their young players ascend. And I know you're being sarcastic here, but they do want to see their young players get better. And I think we need to be honest with ourselves and the Cardinals. All these young players are not going to work out. If they hit on 50% of them, it'll be a huge success. So they want to see that the guys that are capable of doing it, they want to see them do it.
You have to give them a chance. That runway, ding, ding. You see, look, ding, ding, to make sure you get that in there.
Yeah.
We need like a little
Ding, ding.
like buzzer when we say runway,
Yeah.
because that is what they're trying to do this season. You have to find out what you have in guys, because the point you're making earlier, if they did move on from one of these young guys, I mean, even Mozeliak has joked about it that, oh, that guy will probably turn into an MVP for another team because
Tyler
it
O'Neill, right?
keeps happening over and over again where we see players also move on from the organization. And it also looks bad on the Cardinals if they can't develop a guy here, but he can develop elsewhere. And I know there's other factors that lead into that, but sometimes it's just giving a guy enough chances, enough plate appearances where they can showcase who they are. And some of these young guys haven't gotten that chance. I think it's interesting, though, about the production comment here, because what do you notice that, and I haven't been able to speak to Brant Brown, but just based off all the reports that we've seen from spring training and what we've heard from the reporters there and even players, it seems like the philosophy is straying away from kind of the power that we've seen in the past that maybe was under prior hitting coaches. It seems like there's less of an emphasis on that. Is that more of maybe kind of a psychological thing, or where they're trying to take away that pressure in quotations from the young players?
I think so, but I think they're also requiring or requesting that the players actually put some thought into their at-bats. We've talked a lot about the word approach. So if you're in a tie game with a runner at second and nobody out in the eighth inning, and you're down by a run, okay, so 2-1 game, eighth inning, nobody out, runner at second. You had a leadoff double. You don't need to swing for the fences. And Brant Brown has said there are times where you will swing for the home run. The way he put it is sometimes you're going to go up to the plate being a slugger. Sometimes you're going to go up to the plate being a hitter. And a guy like Nolan Gorman is the perfect example. He doesn't need to swing for the fences. Sometimes you just need to get your bat on the ball, move a runner to third with less than 2 out, or get a single to drive that runner home. You don't need to be swinging for the fences all the time. So approach is a big thing for Brant Brown, which I would assume was a big thing for Turner Ward, but some players hear voices differently than others. And hopefully the approach aspect of things for the Cardinals will be better. Remember how, and I always bring this up, I don't know why, but it just sticks out to me. Colton Wong looked like he was swinging for the fences every time he stepped to the plate as a Cardinal, right?
Yes.
And then he goes to Milwaukee and he says, yeah, they told me I don't have to swing for the fences all the time. Well, that's the way all these guys need to be. Jordan Walker hits the ball hard enough. Nolan Gorman hits the ball hard enough. They don't need it to be trying to hit home runs. Victor Scott should never try to hit a home run. If it goes out of the ballpark, great. Lars Nootbaar hits the ball hard. He doesn't need to swing for home runs. And by the way, he has a really good contact rate. Lars Nootbaar does. I just think, and by the way, Brendan Donovan, 394 on base in his rookie year. These guys are capable of getting their bat on the ball. And so the approach needs to be just get the run home sometimes rather than try to hit the home run.
Is there a team right now in Major League Baseball that you think is a good example of that for the Cardinals to follow?
Yeah, who do you think it might be?
I don't know.
I'm going to go with the San Diego Padres, managed by Mike Schultz.
I should have known. I was thinking about that. Well, I was thinking maybe sometimes the Diamondbacks too. I was trying to think of some other teams.
That's another good one.
Where, because the Dodgers are obviously, they can do whatever they want offensively. But I'm trying to think of a team that doesn't put an emphasis on power, where it's just the fundamentals.
Yeah. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll check it here, I think the Padres had, if not the lowest K rate in baseball last year, the lowest at least in the National League, which is a pretty good job by our former manager. But hopefully the Cardinals can take that same approach.
Yeah. Kurt Martin says the Cardinals consistently make up their minds to play guys whether they produce or not and coddle young players. That's why they don't develop.
This is a year unlike any other that I have seen as a Cardinal fan. And I've been a fan since I was 10 years old in 1972. I just don't think that we can look at this year the same as we've looked at any other year. Because in the 70s, the Cardinals had Brock and Gibson for the first half of the decade, and Simmons and Hernandez, Hall of Fame, borderline Hall of Fame players, and they were making a concerted effort to win with those veteran guys. They just never had a really good bullpen. In the 80s, their development was different, but they brought up a guy every single year. In 81, they brought up Andy Rincon, and he got hurt, and he didn't wind up being great. But in 82, and in 81, they had David Green, who didn't work out either. 82, it's Willie McGee. 83, it's Danny Cox. 84, it's Terry Pendleton. 85, it's Vince Coleman and Todd Worrell. Worrell came up basically in September, so he was a rookie in 86. Joe McGrain in 87. There was an impact rookie for the Cardinals every year, and they developed guys. And then under Tony, they traded all their young players because he wanted to manage veterans. So they traded all their kids, and that's why you had a team that basically was developed elsewhere, whether it was Jim Edmonds or Juan Encarnacion or Scott Rowland or Edgar Renteria or David Eckstein or Ronnie Belliard or Yadi and Albert were the only two guys who were really developed here. The pitching staff was all developed elsewhere. So now the Cardinals are in a situation, and we're seeing what the other side looks like, where they are developing guys and trying over the course of time to have a team that is really homegrown. So I think we need to look at this. Don't you, that this is different than anything that we've ever seen from even last year?
Very different. When
they brought in Gray and Lynn and Kyle Gibson, they were bringing in people from the outside. Now it seems like my impression is that they really seem to want to have a homegrown team.
It still needs to catch up on the pitching side, though, and your starting rotation. And you still have Eric Fetty and Steven Matz. And I know that we're kind of talking about things offensively, but just to touch on real quick, some big news with the Yankees today with Garrett Cole with that injury. Looks like did they say for sure Tommy John surgery?
He has been told to get Tommy John. He's waiting for a second opinion.
Okay, I didn't want to misspeak on that one, but as soon as I heard that this morning, and Randy, you mentioned it when I walked in, I said, well, why don't the Cardinals approach the Yankees about Steven Matz and maybe even Eric Fetty? Because those are two guys who are outside of your organization. And I would rather, other teams know who they are too. I would rather move them before any sort of injury happens, especially with Matz, who has had an injury just about every single season.
Yeah, you go to the Yankees and say, hey, we'll give you 2 back of the rotation starting pitchers. And they still have up front, they have Max Fried and they have Carlos Rodon, and they still have Clark Schmidt and they have Stroman, but they can definitely use starting pitching there. And in addition to Garrett Cole, Luis Gil is out for at least 6 weeks, the rookie of the year. And over the weekend, Giancarlo Stanton said that his elbow injuries, both of his elbows, have severe injuries. And he said if he has to have surgery, that it's going to be season ending so that they could use a right-handed bat. Flute Players, 1978, checks in. This is Randall, with it being the 40th anniversary of the Go Crazy folks. Is it true that you dropped a sandwich on a guy's back after Ozzie hit the home run? I don't know how you knew this. Flute Players,
I've never heard this story. I've never heard this story.
Okay. So 1985 was the first renovation of Union Station. And there was a place called Johnny's Sub Shop. And so our tickets were in the upper deck in right field. And the subs were huge. So we brought subs into the ballpark and we couldn't eat them all. And so this is pregame. So we thought we'd wrap them up and we'd take them home for dinner. I think it was like a 3:00 start, maybe a 2:00 start, something like that. So we've got a 2-2 game heading into the 9th inning. And the Cardinals are coming up, and we didn't think against Niedenfuhr, there's no way that they're going to score a run. So we break out each of us, four of us have a Johnny's sub, and they're unwrapped. And I've got a huge roast beef and tomato and lettuce and mayo and everything. And Ozzie never hit a left-handed home run in his life. We're thinking, oh, well, let's start eating. Ozzie comes up to the plate against Niedenfuhr and hits the home run. Go crazy, folks, go crazy. Everybody in the section winds up bursting up out of their seats. Everybody in the stadium did, because it was so unexpected.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a giant half of a Johnny's sub in my lap, and that lettuce and tomato and roast beef and bread flies all over all the people in front of us. Nobody cared. But that is exactly what happened. Yes, I did, Flute Player 1978, I did get a sandwich all over the rest of the section. And by the way, I didn't realize, because of where I was, upper deck right field, and I saw Mariano Duncan trying to make a play on the ball because it bounced off of a pillar. And I was thinking, okay, that it's not a home run until the umpire gives us a... So I jumped up and... I did get sandwiches all over.
How did this person know this? I've never heard this story before.
Yeah.
This is my favorite Randy Karraker story. I also now, I think, the great mystery of Sports Hub STL, who exactly is Flute Player 1978? Clearly, the name makes me think
knowledge.
1978. I feel like we might be dealing with a high school graduation year.
Oh, could it be Greg Warren?
I'm just saying that would put him right around your age, wouldn't it?
Oh,
What
he
year did you graduate high
okay,
school, Randy?
So Flute Players 1978 says, my dad told me, but I didn't believe him. So I guess maybe
We're getting little clues.
Maybe I've told this
Interesting.
story on the air at some stop along the way.
I cannot believe I never heard this
What?
story.
that's
I know.
exactly
That's
what
what I'm
happened,
saying.
yeah.
I can't believe I didn't. What a great memory, though.
Bub says
Sorry
this
for
is
the
some-
sub. Did you go get another one?
I think later on, because that was game 5, and then the Cardinals went back to. I think we did wind up going back to Union Station because of the luck factor.
Yeah, you did it
for the World
because you're a
Series,
little
yeah.
stitious. So of course you have to do it.
Yeah.
Can I
Little fishy.
ask? So these subs, what was the bills exactly? Do you remember what kind of subs they were?
Oh, but well, mine was really nice
Roast
long
beef.
Italian, and they were big. They were like 10 or 12. It must have been 12-inch, right? By 12. And so mine was, because this is weird. You guys won't get this. In the 80s, turkey was not a big thing on a sub. We as a
Really?
kid,
I
turkey was not a thing for sandwiches for us.
I always knew I would have thrived in the 80s.
Oh, really?
I'm not a big turkey.
You don't
guy.
like. You don't,
I don't like
turkey?
deli. I don't like deli turkey.
Okay. So I had it was my classic thing. So I'm not a huge pepper guy or an onion guy at all. So for me it was roast beef with lettuce, tomato, and mayo. Pretty
Oh,
simple.
That's a good
So
sandwich.
now in 2025, I do go turkey, but I love black olives. I love to get black olives on a sub sandwich.
For me, if I have to get lettuce and tomato as a requirement for any
too.
sandwich.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Requirement.
Yeah.
That's
So-
the base layer. And then
there you
if
go.
you go to
Good play.
Jersey Mike's Way, so good.
What's Mike's way?
It's where they put like the olive oil and vinegar and then the salt and pepper. And then you can also get, I
don't-
forgot.
I don't think Mike should be allowed to co-op that. That's just any Italian sub place, salt, vinegar, oil. Like Mike can't co-op that and call it Mike's
He
way.
can.
Jesus, unbelievable.
He
Randy,
can.
this is why I really want to ask about the bill, because I have to ask, what was the sauce situation on the sub? Was there any
sauce.
mayo?
Mayo. Yeah.
Just the mayo.
So somebody's back did get painted. Like somebody's back had a chunk of mayo with
They-
like a tomato stuck right
yeah,
to it, right?
They felt like I'm not even going to go
Oh,
there.
no, I'm scared.
Oh no!
I'm scared of where you're
okay,
going.
Just
we're
Google
gonna-
Antonio Brown.
No. No.
Matt Fox is very annoyed that we
What
put his
was the
question up
question?
there and he didn't answer it. I'm gonna put it back up. I just wanted us
No,
to
it was
see.
no.
It was- Oh yeah. Sorry.
So-
He changed it to no. This was his question.
was his
He got me because I had a typo on the left side run. I misspelled blues, but I fixed it really fast. You guys didn't even notice it. So he was right about that. But here was his question for Matt Fox.
Hold on,
which
let me
was-
get. Matt also had another one. He said, "I missed you guys. I've been waiting since October to get my sports news talk. Thank God for Sports Hub STL. Thank you, Matt. We
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much,
Tell
Matt.
your friends that we're here.
And-
And then the one that was
yes, because of
the
Sports of
blues one?
STL, the great thing is when you send in a question like this, we're going to get to it. We're going to answer it for you. Here's the question.
Yes. Okay, so Max said, or Matt, I put Matt and Fox together.
Mhm.
He said, "Does Victor Scott make the opening day roster?" I believe so.
I think
at
he
this
should. He's
point.
way out. If there is a competition in spring training, it's that one, right?
It is
So-
for the center field position.
And he's way outplayed Siani, both offensively, not defensively, but offensively he has, and that's what he had to do. And he said, "I hope he makes the roster and they let him run." That's the big thing, Matt. I
Yes.
think that they need to give him the green light. Let him be Vince Coleman circa 1985. And if he gets on base, let him be arrogant and let him run.
Just let him do it. I want to see
Yeah.
more of that this year. You didn't see it as much with Mason. Did he have, what was it, 12 stolen bases last season? If that, how
Yeah,
many did he
12
have?
out of 16. Yeah,
Yeah.
16 attempts.
And I know
Yeah.
that Ollie says it's a lot of situational stuff. I just want to see these young guys run.
Yeah.
You have the bigger bases. Why not take advantage of it, especially when you have such a young athletic team?
No doubt. Check this out. Flute Players 1978 became a YouTube member. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate
Yes.
that.
Yes.
And we do appreciate you guys and gals being involved in the YouTube chat every single day.
By the way, if some people here are new to YouTube and they're wondering kind of what just went down. First of all, Flute Player 1978 gave us a super chat, which is something you can do. If you give us a super chat, we will get right to it. It'll go right up on the screen. It'll be up on the screen for a while we talk about the topic. And also, if you join as a YouTube member, you can kind of see right now we actually put another one of our YouTube members, GB, very loyal member. You see his name's up on the screen, and he's got that little subscriber logo next to
With
him.
the star?
Yes. So if you are a subscriber, it says it next to your name. always going to throw your chats up. That's why becoming a subscriber to the channel and everything is beneficial, because we're always going to get to your chats as often as we can, but it's easier when we see that logo to get right to those chats right at the gate. So hence GB chiming in with Speed Thrills, free Victor Scott. I'm with him 100%.
Yes. We do have to talk about some Blues. I know we have a really quick Grim report because we've been talking a lot of Cardinals, but we need to touch on the Blues because right now they're a point out of the playoff spot. And with the Blues, I wasn't here on Friday. I had already left for Tennessee a little bit early, but Colton Parayko.
Had a baby shower.
I did have a baby shower this weekend. It was great. It was fantastic. And with the Blues this weekend, I know they had a tough loss against the Kings. And overtime, they were able to at least come away with a point. But right now, they're a point out of a playoff spot. I know you guys talked about this, but the trade deadline now has officially passed. Were you guys surprised at all that the Blues decided to stand pat, not adding, not subtracting any guys?
I was not at all surprised. That's the MO of Doug Armstrong when the team is playing well as they approach the trade deadline. Evidently, any discussion of a Braden Shen trade was stonewalled by Shen, which is his right with the no trade clause. And so I wonder, even if there would have been something there, if he would have said, yeah, sure, I'll go to Toronto. I don't think the Blues would have done it, because I really do think, and by the way, Schenner's playing great lately, but I think that Doug Armstrong has confidence that this particular group of players can make the playoffs, and he didn't want to mess with what clearly has become some pretty good chemistry.
And this could be, Ben says, smart to stand pat. Our future is bright, especially when you're looking at these young guys. You even saw in that loss on Saturday with the Blues and Kings, those guys were gassed too, by the way. I'm not trying to give them excuses, but they have played a lot of games in a short span of time leading to Saturday. But the thing that stood out to me the most in that Kings game is the self-sacrificing. You saw the shot blocking, especially with Bolduc, that young guy who's really stepping up here lately. Bolduc kind of setting up that screen for that Nick Leddy goal. And the absence of Colton Parayko, I talked to Jamal Mayers about this, and you can go back to the Blues Hub Weekly show and watch that. We did that late last night, so you can see that on our YouTube channel. But Jamal was just talking about the self-sacrificing as something that is really standing out with him, because the positive about standing pat is it really shows these guys, okay, we believe in you for this playoff push. And the Blues have the easiest schedule really in the league from here on out.
I really love the way that they're blocking shots and sacrificing. And that's hard to get guys to do now. And I think a lot of this is attributable to Jim Montgomery. Jim Montgomery, in addition to being a really good X's and O's coach, he's a great psychologist. By the way, I have no idea what happened. Well, I do. Jim Montgomery wasn't given enough good players in Boston. They got rid of a lot of players because he wasn't given enough guys. But it works to the Blues' advantage that he was available. I think a lot of that sacrifice comes from him going to players and saying, look, we need this. This is how we're going to win. And he appeals to them on their level, and they get it. But everybody is doing something. For all of our complaining over the years, and I'm right there with everybody, and so are you, about Kyrou.
Yes.
Jordan Kyrou is playing great, and he's playing both ends of the ice. But when you look at all of the sacrifice, and lead by example, when you have people like Suter and Falk and Fowler leading by example and blocking shots. Fowler, by the way, was out because of the birth of a baby the other night. Congratulations.
Blues baby.
But I think that those veteran defensemen lead by example. Shen leads by example, and I think the young players are following along.
They are, and that's exactly what you need. It felt like the group was just still trying to configure who exactly they were under Jim Montgomery. But, you know, when he was here, when the Blues gave him a second chance after everything that happened with the Dallas Stars, when the Blues gave him a second chance to come and be an assistant coach here with the organization, seeing how he worked specifically with the players. I just remember watching practice one day, and this sounds so silly. I know he wouldn't do this as a head coach now, but he wore a wig just to kind of lighten the mood of the guys. It seems like he's really tapped into what specifically every single player needs, or even what works best for a group to get the most out of them.
I think so often sports, and it shouldn't, it's life. Sports, when you're playing that many games, kind of becomes drudgery.
Yeah.
And the best coaches have the personality to make it fun for players. And this is a process. This is not an event for the Blues. They're climbing up a hill. They're climbing a mountain. And there are times where it's just too hard, and you have to do something different to make it fun and enjoyable for them.
And Jamal Mayers also mentioned, because with the loss of Colton Parayko affects the game in every single way. And I know that I feel like we have to talk about it every single season. Yes, he's not Chris Pronger. He's not that mean guy. He's just not a mean person in general. So he doesn't have that mean streak on the ice unless, he's playing for Team Canada and Four Nations where he'll decide to drop the gloves there. Would like to see that more, but he does so much for the Blues in so many different ways. This is a huge loss for them, but even with Nick Leddy having that great game the other night, you need more guys like that and Falk and all the other defensemen to be able to step up and come through.
I expect the defense to still play well because of the veterans, because you've got Leddy and Fowler and Falk and Broberg is going to be fine.
Yes. And he's dealt with an injury, so that kind of impacted him.
And I wonder if more minutes and more responsibility will allow Broberg to ascend to what we think he's capable of being. I think he's capable of being a number one guy. Maybe it doesn't happen this year, but maybe this is valuable time for him. But I think that it's kind of fortuitous that Doug Armstrong went out and added to Leddy and signed Suter during the offseason, and then adds a guy like Fowler during the season. And then you see Joseph go, you see Perunovic go. This is a much more established defense than it was when the season started, and there might have been a method to the madness, but you'll miss the goals that Parayko was providing. I don't know if defensively they'll be that much worse off.
No,
and he's great defensively.
Yes, he is, but you already saw that these guys are willing to step up. Going back to that self-sacrificing, this group is buying into what Doug Armstrong is buying in right now, and that's what you need to be, is everybody on the same page. Bub says the best piece of Blues could have acquired this season was Montgomery, and they did that. Feels so bad for Drew Bannister, or Banny, as we like to call him. Yep. It was just not the right time or situation for him. When we all knew that as soon as Jim Montgomery was available, the Blues and Doug Armstrong were going to bring him into the organization again.
Okay, the Blues have 69 points right now, correct? They're 1 point behind in the wild card. Let me just double check here. Yeah, 69 points, 31, 27, and 7. I'm guessing that they would probably have 59 if they didn't make the coaching change.
It's bad, but it's true. And it's nothing against Bannister. Was so nice. Was so great.
Really nice.
But there's a difference in Montgomery and Bannister, right?
Montgomery is just a great head coach.
He is.
I always go back to what Joe Micheletti told me when the Blues hired him as an assistant coach after he had been the head coach of the Stars. And Joe Micheletti's son, Adam, who lives here in St. Louis, was the head coach of a team in Iowa, I think. Might have been Des Moines or Dubuque or something like that. And so Joe had a chance to go watch Jim Montgomery's team. Adam was the general manager of the team, hired Jim Montgomery. And Joe said that just in terms of coaching fundamentals, that Jim Montgomery was the best he'd ever seen. And Joe was a coach. He's been around coaches forever. He broadcast the Stanley Cup for years. And for him to say that about Jim Montgomery, I thought was the highest compliment that you could get. And then you watch and you pay attention to what Montgomery did with Dallas and then with Boston. I think he's exceptional.
Hockey Dad Don, which congratulations on welcome to YouTube Basics. So that means that he fully subscribed, right? Okay. All right. Congratulations on that. And he has a question for you, Randy, specifically, because of course I haven't been here. I've only seen Yo, Berube, Bannister, and now Montgomery. But Hockey Dad Don wants to ask you, I'm curious, Randy, who are your top 3 St. Louis Blues coaches of all time?
Okay. So go ahead. Now I'm going to, Hockey Dad Don, if you can quickly check back in. If it's people that I have covered, and I've been covering since 1983. So my first coach to cover was Jacques Demers. Or is it people that I didn't cover? Because that changes my answer.
Okay, if it's people you didn't cover, then your number 1 coach is the same, and it's Quenneville.
No.
Then Bowman's 2.
No, Bowman's 1.
Okay, and then Quenneville's 2, and then Hitchcock's 3.
I think I would probably go that direction. Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Then if it's just coaches you covered, obviously Bowman's out. Yeah. How does it change the 3?
I would probably, let's see. Jacques Demers did an amazing job here with a team that should not have won and got them to the conference finals in 1986. I would probably go if Bowman isn't there. By the way, not that he did a great job here, but Al Arbor went to and won 4 straight Stanley Cups with the Islanders. He was great, but he didn't have the team here. I would probably go. So here's my guys. I went from Demers to Jacques Martin to Sutter to Barry to Keenan. Yeah. To Q, to Kitchen, Mike, he was kind of scuffling. Kitch was. Then Davis Payne, Andy Murray, Hitch, and then Yo, and then Chief. Yeah, Chief was pretty darn good too.
Chief has to be up there.
Yeah. So I would probably go overall for the guys I've covered. I would go Q, Hitch, Chief.
Oh, that's good. I think that's good. And also, Hockey Dad Don said, doesn't matter any coaches who have ever coached the Blues.
Then I would go Bowman, Q. Boy, it's hard to leave Chief out of there, isn't it?
To me, I don't know if you can, but I'm just talking about me personally. It had
But
to have been
I
a
think-
lot for the first ever Stanley Cup in the Blues history.
I think in terms of being a great coach, just in terms of making players better and making a team better, I mean, Hitchcock did an unbelievable job here.
Yeah.
So I would probably go. I would probably go with what I said: Bowman, Q, Hitch.
Either way, your list is Hall of Famer, Blue Stanley Cup winner.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah,
with any
or
of those.
Not
Hall
half
of
bad,
Fame.
or all Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah. So we had a lot of coaches get away and win Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
So when you think about Bowman, Arbor, Q, that's 4. Bowman had 11. Q had 3. Arbor had 4. That's 18 right there. Demers had 1. I think I'm missing. Jacques Martin was in the finals a couple of times, I think. We had some guys that did pretty well. And then we hired a guy that had been to the finals the year before and won it, and he wound up being Mike Keenan.
So you said, Rocky, I'm curious because you mentioned Quenneville. Were you surprised?
I mean, I've never met somebody who didn't walk away unbelievably impressed by him as the Blues head coach, and doesn't have some, like, everybody who was alive like during that run and watched it. I've never not heard them get like some sadness in their voice about what could have been had the Blues not lost him in those kind of things. And so, I mean, as soon as the question asked, I was like, I know that Quinn Hughes is he's going to be in the list somewhere.
That was if we have a pre-modern era of the Blues and then a modern era of the Blues. Let's set it up let's set it up from ownership. So you've got the era before Mike Shanahan. So like the Ralston Purina, Harry Ornest era, Solomon, Ralston Purina, Harry Ornest era. And then from Shanahan on. So if we go from like 1988 forward, the biggest mistake the organization made was firing Joel Quenneville.
Wow. And there was, remember when those rumors were coming around that he might come back?
Yeah.
that went away quickly. I wanted to ask you too, just in that 70s era with Barclay Plager, what he was like as a head coach.
So,
and then you had Red Berenson after that too.
And Berenson was also a great coach here. That wasn't given much of a runway.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, because they won the President's Trophy in 80-81, and then he was fired in 82. Bark, he was here to help a young team grow up. It was Sutter, it was Federico, it was Wayne Babbage, it was that group, Blake Dunlop. So Bark, until he got sick, was here to help that group grow up, and they all give him a tremendous amount of credit for their careers and for being men. He really helped them grow up. And then when Bart got sick, Red Berenson took over and did a magnificent job in helping that group reach the pinnacle. They probably should have won in 1981, but the one thing they were missing was a big rugged defenseman, and the Rangers had a big rugged defenseman named Barry Beck, who just ran all over the place, and the Blues didn't have anybody to slow him down. If Red would have had that guy, they probably would have had a much better chance to win the cup. Red was a really good coach, and he proved that by going to Michigan for 28 years and winning a couple of championships there.
Red still plays, doesn't he, to this day? I know he's like 80 something at this point.
Or 84. Yeah.
I know that he still plays in some alumni games.
Yeah. So he was in town a couple of weeks ago. One of his players and assistant coaches, Bill McCult, is the head coach at Lindenwood. So we had a fundraiser for the Lindenwood hockey program, and Red was in town, sharp as a tack, remembers everything, and just a really nice man.
Yeah. Well, that was our Grim Report for the Blues, and we'll continue to watch what they are doing for the rest of this week. And by the way, Blues fans, join Sports Hub SEL, Hot Shots, Sports Bar and Grill, and DraftKings for our first Blues Hub watch party. While you're watching Thursday night's Blues game on television, log on to sportshubsel.com, where you'll find Andy Strickland, Cam Jansen, and Jamal Mayers and other special guests as they watch the game along with you and take your questions and comments as the Blues play at Pittsburgh. It all happens this Thursday night, starting just before puck drop at 6 at Blues Hub's second screen experience, where you can hang out virtually with Andy Strickland, Cam Jansen, and Jamal Mayers, and other special guests. It's all brought to you by Hot Shot Sports Bar and Grill and by DraftKings.
My phone blowing up because I've got $2 off, $10 at Sauce on the Side.
Oh, so that goes perfectly in today's overarching. Will Randy go to Sauce on the Side today?
I probably will not go today. By the way, we were talking about sandwiches earlier, and the overarching item of the day, hitting Jersey Mike's for lunch today.
Yes.
Trying to finish something up, but the current conversation is making it difficult. Glad to hear that, Jeff. Thanks. That's Jeff Kutubi, I believe is the pronunciation of your name. How about this? And I need everybody to weigh in here, including the YouTube chat. The artichoke with mushrooms at Penn Station. Artichoke with mushroom sandwich at Penn Station.
I have not been to Penn Station in a long time. I love their fries.
Great fries.
And I'm a warm sandwich gal. So just a little fun fact for those who like Jersey Mike's too. The one on Manchester that's kind of tucked away over by the TJ Maxx and McAllister's, that one also has a grill. So a lot of the Jersey Mike's don't have a grill, but that one has a grill. So you can get some of the grilled sandwiches there.
Oh, you're
greatly overestimating how much my eyes don't glaze over when I see a sandwich that doesn't have protein as like.
Oh, you need meat, huh?
I shouldn't. I'm a child, but like if I see a sandwich and it's just like I don't see like a protein as one of the first three ingredients, my eyes, I glaze over and I move on to the next item.
Cool. I'm cool with that.
The people who are like, mushrooms are like a good replacement because they have like that earthy steak kind of taste. You're lying. Yeah. You're lying to me. You're lying to yourself, and you're lying to the general public. Yeah.
My son is a non-red meat guy and turned me onto it, so I like him.
That is a good move.
Sometimes mushrooms are really good. You've been to Sato. I know that you and Rachel are fans of Sato.
Oh, yes, I am.
Have you had their mushroom nigiri?
I'm not good with mushrooms.
I'm telling you, the best tasting mushroom I've ever had, and it's covered in butter though, because so that's what it is.
I've when I've been at like weddings or something like that, when they have like the canapes or the hors d'oeuvres, they're like little like stuffed mushrooms. I'll eat those. So I got to get better at mushrooms. It's been a texture thing for me.
Yeah.
We get YouTube chat question from Ray, or a comment, who says teams are going to load up lefty pitchers when they face the Cardinals. And you're not wrong, Ray. No. But the interesting thing about that is, Brooke, do you remember a couple of years ago when we were doing the radio show, and I think John Denton was on, and the Cardinals, they just couldn't find anybody that could hit left-handed. This was literally 2 years ago. And we had John Denton on the radio show, and they had brought somebody up. I don't even remember who it was. And he said, I said, why is this guy getting a chance? And he said, can you hit left-handed, Randy? And they switched literally. It was a flip. 1 year they only had right-handed hitters. Last year they only had left-handed hitters. This is one of the reasons that Jordan Walker needs to work out for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Because they don't have any right-handed power hitters in their system either. Maybe Luke and Baker. Happy birthday, Luke and Baker, 28 today. Maybe Luke and Baker.
Is he really 28 today?
Yeah.
Wow, he is 28 years old.
Yeah. So maybe he'll be the right-handed hitter. But when you look at it, Wynn is not a power hitter, right?
No.
They don't have any right-handed hitting outfielders. You have Baker, Arenado, obviously. And then the catchers, but I don't think Herrera's a good hitter, good offensive player, but he's not a power hitter. So they need Jordan Walker to work out as a right-handed hitter, because of what Ray says. The Blues or the Cardinals are going to see a lot of lefties. Whenever somebody has a left-handed pitcher, they're going to throw him at a team that has Scott, that has Newt Barr, that has Brendan Donovan. Now, maybe those guys will hit left-handed pitchers well, but the Cardinals just have a lot of left-handed hitting. And maybe Burleson, if he gets the opportunity. The Cardinals' best hitters clearly are left-handed.
Well, and then that is one benefit, though, of having Nolan Arenado still in your lineup, right? there's another
Yeah,
guy.
right, no doubt. Yeah.
Another right-handed bat for you. But to your point about Luke and Baker, I mean, that's another guy that's just added into this whole situation, possibly a bench guy for the Cardinals this season, is that maybe he can be a pinch hitter in those situations, get lefties.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
we can do that.
The chat
Let
went the correct.
Baker rake.
The chat went the correct way, by the way. They really latched onto that sandwich conversation, and we got some comments here. So we're switching back to sandwich conversation.
Okay, one quick one though.
I know which one you're going to pick.
I was going to go with Waterboy.
No.
Oh, Waterboy. You guys used to be on the radio?
No, we didn't. Will, this is one I thought you were going to pick. Will Sutton says, best local sandwich in St. Louis. Topic for Tuesday?
Okay, that's good. Now, we need to qualify this, though, because last
That's
week
tough.
we asked Josh Schertz what his go-to sandwich place was, and he named a couple of local places, but then started going with national chains. We have to prohibit national chains from being a part of the conversation. It can only be, like Will says, best local sandwich in STL.
And
that will be a topic for tomorrow.
And we give Schertz a pass because he got here and he had to lock down Gibson with that sushi meal. He had to lock down Robbie with some Capital Grill.
Oh, totally.
He hasn't had the time to really understand. I mean, the guy hasn't had Joya's yet. I mean, he has had Gramophone. So, like, in my opinion,
That's strong.
I love all the sandwich places around St. Louis, but in my opinion, if you're doing what place do you take a tourist to? And
Has
I
he
think
been to
that's
Mom's Deli?
Wow, right in my South City heart. You just kick me right in the chest.
Hashtag sad.
And LeGrand is better.
No. I think for me,
we need to get him to Joyous.
yeah, I think, Joy's is great. But another one, if I just want like an unhealthy, really bad sandwich for me, the Gramophone has so many good options. I love the Gramophone. That one's good. Another kind of hole in the wall one that I don't feel like a lot of people talk about, but I love is Parker's Table. That one is so good.
Okay,
Have you
hold on a
guys been
second.
to
What's the order at Parker's Table? Let me know.
I do
Lay
the
it out.
turkey sandwich one.
Okay,
because
well-
I'm a turkey person, but they have a
Yeah,
lot of
pivot for
different
me.
options. Really fresh selection. It's
Parker's-
good.
Jalen
Parker's
Baldwin,
Table.
a man right after Matthew's
it's in
heart.
Clayton.
Vegan Deli and Butcher in Bevo Mill. Thank me.
Here's the thing. It might not be my place, but I am a absolute I am a city honk. And people, if you know this about me, I grew up in the city and I will always champion the city.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't talk about it enough. So anybody pumping up Bevo Mill, even if it's not my thing, I'm all for it. Pump up Bevo Mill like crazy, an incredible area of the city, and great to go down there and visit.
My husband's favorite, who is a St. Louis native, is it LeGrand's? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, LeGrand's is, and that's the one. That's the other one down in South City, and that's got more of the market vibe as well.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's my
LeGrand's is
husband's
absolutely elite. For me, I mean, I was allowed to go to LeGrand's as a child. I wasn't allowed to walk all the way to Mom's Deli because the difference between Donovan and Jameson, that's a big gap that you're letting your 12-year-old walk to. And so I was always on LeGrand's train, not Mom's Deli as a South City kid. But I mean, Mom's is incredible. The fact that place had lines out the door, people waiting hours for the last couple of days. And that's even people knowing that they're going to get a new location and you're going to be able to get the Mom's Special again. But people right out of the gate were like, I'm not risking it. This might be my Mom's Special. And that's why I love South St. Louis. That's why I love St. Louis overall. It's why I love the food in this town. Ray says chicken cordon bleu at Penn Station. Now that is a chain though, so we're exiting it off, right?
Yeah, we got a couple of here on the YouTube chat line. First of all, Rip It Up Card says Randy Wilson is going to hit 30 home runs this year. Point well taken. I was thinking more about the future.
Yeah.
And I don't think when the team is ready to win, and I love Wilson Contreras and I love him as an offensive player, but I don't think when the team is ready to win that he'll still be a member of the Cardinals. So while you're likely correct for 2025, he is a really good right-handed hitter. I don't think Arenado will be here either. I think that they need, especially Jordan Walker, to step up and be a player. Also, Matthew, I don't know if you saw this one. Waterboy checks in and says, Mom is on the IR with a week back. How long do you figure she's had that, Matthew?
About a week back.
Boo. Boo.
Matthew, why are you shaking your head? No, you get in the bubble here.
That wasn't even a
You
good
said
one.
get in the
I'm not getting in the bubble for that.
You said not
I
getting in
refuse
the
to get in the
bubble.
bubble for that one right there.
Okay.
By the way, the question was asked by Brooke, which is, do you always go with the warm sandwich if you have the option?
Personally.
I don't understand people who don't get their subs toasted at places that give you the option, unless we're dealing with, as I've talked about before, something that's fully vegetable or like honestly,
If you're in a hurry.
you shouldn't be grilling it's 45 seconds and it'll make you a happier
if you're in a
person. The
hurry?
melted cheese is I truly believe one of the quickest paths towards happiness in this world.
Yeah.
And so why would you not melt the cheese?
Fair
Why
enough.
would you not want the bread to be nice, crispy, and crunchy?
Hey, we want you kids to know that you need to make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube page and you like this video. And several people have joined in today. If you haven't already, go to sportshubstl.com and sign up for the newsletter too. It's sent to your inbox twice a week, and anytime St. Louis sports news breaks, you'll get a newsletter saying sports news is broken, and you'll be the first to know about Sports Hub STL events and merchandise. You get exclusive content and prize opportunities and more. And while you're on the site, check out all the St. Louis sports content, including game recaps, programming highlights, sports news and opinion, gambling tips, and more. It's all on the website at sportshubstl.com.
Now we got to say goodbye. It's sandwich time.
Hockey Dad Don. I have a buddy trying to tell me cold pizza is better than hot. Talk about mind-blowing, LOL. There is no way that cold pizza is better than hot pizza.
No.
Now,
Exactly what did I just say? Melted cheese
Yeah, there you
is the
go.
path to happiness.
I
Yeah.
think one of the things that we need to do as a society is remove reheating pizza in a microwave.
Oh, you told me the best way to
Yeah.
reheat it.
If you get one of those stone pizza things,
Yeah.
and put it in the oven at 350 for 5 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever, it's so much better than reheating in the microwave. It's
You
worth
know,
the time.
My husband and his mom love eating cold pizza.
Yeah, I know.
Of course, they prefer it. But to your point, like their whole situation, if it's time to reheat a piece of pizza, they won't do it. And I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I feel like it takes like the purpose out of the pizza.
Right. If it's cold,
Yeah.
totally agree. Totally agree.
It's a warm food.
Yeah, it's got to be warm.
Yeah.
I like cold sausage. Yeah.
Ugh.
No.
No, thank you.
Yeah. I'm
Now I'm
with you
gonna
on
go
that.
get a sandwich after this.
A Cards fan 81. Matthew preaching truth this AM. Melt the cheese.
Finally, a food take from Rockio that I can agree with. Somebody didn't say that, but I did. I just needed to put that out there because usually I don't agree with Rockio's food takes, and this is finally one I can get on board with.
Yeah, this is not a hill to die on.
How does it feel to
No.
be on the side of right for once?
No, you're usually not
We-
on the
let-
side
let-
of right.
we need to ask you this question.
On the,
Yes,
on the side of
exactly.
truth and justice, how does it feel for
No.
once, Brooke? Finally, you're wearing the white hat. Good job.
No,
Are we
no.
doing Cards Hub today before the game or tonight after the game? Do we know? The Cardinals play at 5:10 against the Mets tonight. That, by the way, that game is on MLB Network. It's not on FanDuel Sports, so it'll be on MLB Network. You want to check it out.
Mhm.
We have Cards Hub 365 here, and it's at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock for Cards Hub 365. I know Joe is coming out to tell us that it's at 1 o'clock, and then the Cardinals play tonight at 5 o'clock. So looking forward to that, and hopefully the Cardinals will continue to make progress towards 2 weeks from Thursday. 14 games left in the Grapefruit League, and then the Cardinals play a 15th preseason game against Memphis 2 weeks from today. And then they're off on Tuesday and Wednesday, and they open on Thursday, the 27th, against the Minnesota Twins.
It's
at
so
Busch Stadium.
weird. It is coming. It's coming down to the wire
Happening,
here.
happening in a hurry, isn't it?
I know. Yes.
Yeah.
Season is right around the corner.
So let's go Cards. Great job today by our producer, audio, video engineer. You don't get to see Matthew working on the cameras during the course of the show, but he was magnificent today. Thank you, sir.
I'll work on putting my camera back on the screen more often.
You
I'm
didn't.
sorry.
Thank
You
you,
didn't
yeah.
put yourself in a bubble
We
today.
need that,
So yeah,
Brooke is back from the shower, and the shower went well.
it did.
What's
Yes.
the coolest thing that the baby got?
Oh goodness, that's tough because everything had a great purpose. My parents did get us the stroller and car seat that we wanted.
Awesome. Good.
So that was probably the best
Good.
thing. But there was just so many great little like gifts along the way,
Yeah.
and family, friends. We're gonna have one here in St. Louis too.
Oh, good.
So a lot more stuff coming in.
Good. Did you have fun today?
I did.
Good.
Yeah.
We all did, and we hope you did too. We will see you tomorrow at 10 right back here. Same time, same channel on YouTube. It's Sports Hub STL, and have a terrific, or how about a magnificent Monday, St. Louis.
Magnificent Monday.